Welcome to the Net Profit College Basketball Show. It's Saturday, March the 5th. That's right, March the 5th. It's the first Saturday morning show we've done in the month of March. This is the best time of year. It's so exciting. You can see if you're watching on ESPN, they've got the Coach K propaganda. Quite honestly, I don't give two shits about it compared to some of the stuff. Like we've got automatic bids in conference tournaments being decided today. That's where my focus is. That's what I'm excited about. But yes, you're going to hear nonstop about Coach K's final game ever at Cameron Indoor Stadium against the rival North Carolina. And yeah, that's going to dominate the airwaves. But the beauty of this show is we talk about everything. We talk about every game, every conference, and that's what we're going to attempt to do in the next an hour, 45 minutes or so. Conor Mack should be along momentarily. We understand he's on the West Coast, so maybe a slow start to the day for him, but that's all right. We should have Conor with me momentarily. And, of course, we got Maxwell Smart in hour number 2 to break down mostly the added board. And to be honest with you, this is a Saturday where I would say in terms of percentage, 50-50 in terms of added board / conference tournament plays to regular season main board plays for me. I mean, I'm way more excited and interested in betting some of these conference tournament games today than the regular season games, where it's kind of like you're playing Dr. Fraser Crane and trying to figure out who's really focused on this final game, who's just looking forward to the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. So that's why I find this final Saturday of the regular season is just a little bit tricky, in the major power conferences. So let's get to it. We'll start with, of course, the early games. We'll do a lot of regular season stuff and main board stuff now, and then we'll save a lot of the conference tournaments till later when Max joins us. Let's go to Virginia, Louisville. Virginia, 4-point road favorites, 123 the total in this game. Really, for me, it's been difficult to back Louisville down the stretch. This is a team that, has already seen a coaching change. It's a team that hasn't necessarily, played inspired basketball the last few games. You talk about a team that's certainly showing signs of quit. That clearly looks like what I'm seeing from Louisville. Against Wake Forest, against Virginia Tech. They lose those two games 99-77, 75-43. Really, they were non-competitive in those two games. So I look at it here and I see really a difficult time for me to try to back Louisville at this point in time. This is their final home game. Do they give a care at this point? I'm not even sure about that. Virginia is struggling. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. The only victory was on the road against Miami. I'm still wondering how they did that, to be quite honest. But, they lost by 9 against Virginia Tech and then back-to-back. Tough losses, though, competitive in defeat both games. Duke at home, they lost by 4. And then a pretty bad loss against, a Florida State team that's kind of been careening out of control here these last few this whole second half of the season. Florida State struggled, and Virginia lost to them in their last game. I'd still look to maybe lay in the 4 with Virginia. I've just seen this Louisville team. It's not so much that they're not very good, and we know that, but now the effort is coming into question. With what we've seen the last 2 games, basically seen them lay down. Really, your only hope here, if you're taking Louisville, is that this team suddenly rises up in a final home game scenario and gets some kind of inspiration from that. I'm just not sure that's going to be the case. So I'd lay the points with Virginia. In fact, I do have a small bet UVA. I know they're not in great form, but it's more of a fade of Louisville than anything. Arkansas, Tennessee. Tennessee, 6-point home favorites, 139.5 the total in this game. So I get it. Tennessee is perfect at home this year, 15-0. They're in revenge for a loss just recently in Fayetteville against Arkansas. Few weeks ago, they lost 58-48, probably one of the worst offensive performances of the entire season for Tennessee. They only shot 16 of 59 from the field in that game. It was rough. It was not very good by any stretch of the imagination. As far as Arkansas is concerned, J.D. Note has been awesome lately, just continues to be one of the catalysts for this group, was the main reason they beat Kentucky. And of course, you look at what he's did against LSU was solid as well. Stanley Amude has had a very good game against LSU as well. So did Jalen Williams. And they gutted it out against the Tigers, 77-76 in their last game to remain undefeated at home. Now they go on the road, though, and there was always that chatter earlier in the year. Maybe Arkansas is a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more susceptible on the road, but you wouldn't know that lately. They beat down it is a bad Georgia team, but they did what you would expect and hope they would do, and that's crush them 99-73. They did lose by 1 against Alabama, but covered the number in defeat as 6-point road underdogs. They crushed Missouri on the road and then went to Florida in a game Florida really wanted, really needed to have, and Arkansas found the way to get the victory. Arkansas's pressure really, really made Tennessee uncomfortable in that first meeting. They rushed a lot of shots. They just never got into their offense. Does home court change that? I'm not sure, but I'm not looking to fade Arkansas at the moment. You look at their road performances lately; they've actually been better on the road. They're 6-0, in fact, ATS in their last 6 road games. So while I've made a lot of my money this year on Arkansas at home, they've turned, not that they were struggling earlier, but they have shown here in SEC conference play they're capable of getting the job done on the road as well. 6 straight point spread covers. Even with the revenge angle, I've got to look at Arkansas here in some form. Do I love fading Tennessee in this spot? Not necessarily, no, but I don't know if Tennessee is going to be able to get margin against this Arkansas team, whose only loss in their last 10 games was by a single point, against Alabama. So, normally I don't like going against these final home game situations, especially when a pretty good basketball team like Tennessee is playing in revenge. And usually that has me looking at the home team, but the number has to come into play here. If I'm laying 2 with Tennessee, great. If I'm laying 3 with Tennessee, okay, maybe I can get there. But laying 6, no. Not that many points against this very good Arkansas team. So I'll probably have a small piece of Arkansas there when I look at that matchup. All right, let's go to Villanova Butler. Villanova 8.5-point road favorites, 128.5 the total in this game. Villanova, of course, you got to wonder with them now, how are they going to handle this finale when you look at where they sit right now? They've already clinched the second seed in the Big East as of right now. So we'll see, how they fare here. That's not really a whole lot at stake or incentive here in this game other than finishing the regular season strong. But you look at Butler, and this has been a pretty rough period of time for them. They lost by 8 at Marquette, lost by 6 at Seton Hall. A very, very tough, painful home loss to Providence, 71-70, blown out by St. John's. So they've definitely had a struggle here to wrap up the regular season. 4 straight losses here for Butler, and in 3 of those, pitiful offensively for the Butler Bulldogs. And that's definitely something that concerns me here. You got to be able to put up points. And we just haven't seen that consistently here from this Butler team. And then to make matters worse, they're dealing with potentially, a pretty key injury, because we know this guy can, deliver at times a little bit of a punch for this Butler team. Jair Bolden, 6.7 points per game, but still gives you pretty decent minutes and might not play here for Butler today. So keep an eye on that. But Butler's definitely struggled offensively. This definitely feels like this could be an under to me. I mean, with Villanova, there's some question marks about just how, much they care about this game. I don't know if I'd want to lay 8.5, but do I want to trust Butler? No. So when I look at this situation here, I would say that you've got both of these teams probably looking at a lower scoring affair here. Villanova, defensively, I think they're starting to get it back again. You look at what they've done here, some of these last couple of games, it's been a little bit better. Providence, they give up 25 of 56. UConn, they had the loss. But I think when you look at it, Villanova, this is a game where you can expect their defense to step up more than anything, because you've got a Butler team that's just struggling to find the bucket right now offensively. So I would lean under the total in this one with Villanova Butler. Alabama, LSU. We've got LSU 3.5-point home favorites, 154 being the total here in this game. Money's coming in on Alabama. Very interesting line move. Alabama, to me, I don't like what I'm seeing at all from them. I mean, you just got ripped apart on the defensive end of the basketball court on your home floor by Texas A&M. What does that say about where things are at with you right now? Doesn't say a whole lot. So when I look at this spot here for Alabama in this matchup here against LSU, I'm a little bit baffled the money's come in here, to be quite honest with you, on Alabama in this game. LSU, they've got Xavier Pinson back. I know Darius Days was banged up earlier in the regular season, but he's going to be playing here. LSU has obviously lost 3 of their last 4. The South Carolina road loss wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination, losing that game. It's kind of a loss you shouldn't have. But the Kentucky game, against the Wildcats, who are playing really well at the moment, 5-point loss on the road. They beat down Missouri, had every opportunity to beat Arkansas. Unfortunately for LSU, they did not execute very well down the stretch. And it really did cost them in that game against the Razorbacks earlier this week. But, this is now their final home game. They lost a close one earlier this year to Alabama in Tuscaloosa, 70-67. But LSU did get the point spread cover in that game. It is worth noting Alabama's won 5 straight against LSU, and this Will Wade, Nate Oates, head-to-head series has definitely not been a good one for LSU and Will Wade. I mean, they've had a tough time, but it's hard to ignore the fact that as this SEC regular season progresses, we're seeing Alabama get worse, not better, especially at the defensive end of the floor. Like, they've had some really, really ugly defensive efforts the last few games. They gave up 90 and over 50% from the field to Kentucky, in that 90-81 loss. You saw them give up 72 points to Vanderbilt, 71 to South Carolina. They shot almost 50% in that game. And then A&M at 33 of 58. Absolute travesty from the defensive perspective for Alabama in that loss to the Aggies earlier this week. And again, this team is just too reliant on the three-point shot. And when you look at LSU, they're only allowing 26.5% from three-point range in the last 5 games. And this is an Alabama team that for some damn reason, and I don't know why, but they just feel like they've got to shoot a lot of threes. And unfortunately for them, they're not making a lot of threes, or they're not shooting a very good percentage right now from three-point range. So that's absolutely a concern for me. I'm looking at LSU here. You can get 3 at Bet Online. You can get 3.5 at most books, but there are shop around because there are some -3s out there right now with LSU in this game. That's the side for me. Alabama's not in a good way at the moment. I know they've dominated LSU head-to-head. It's been a while since LSU's actually beaten Alabama. But, man, you talk about a team that's got the best opportunity possible here to finally get a win against Alabama. This has got to be it. They're at home. Right now, I think they're in a little bit better form at the moment. And I think they'll find a way to get this job done here. So I like LSU here laying the short number against Alabama. Miami, Syracuse. Syracuse 1.5-point home favorites, 150.5 the total in this game. This is a very important game. Now, this is one regular season game where it is important to both sides. Both of these teams are bubblicious, if you will. Certainly Syracuse is. In fact, Syracuse probably isn't in the tournament right now, but Miami's flirting around being right on the fringe as well. So this is a very important game, I would say, for both of these programs, the Hurricanes and the Orange. Syracuse have lost 3 in a row. Jim Boeheim openly criticizing his defense and his centers for not defending the rim, not protecting the paint. I wouldn't do that. It's just you got to try to give your kids some confidence, not tear them down. But he's not wrong. They have been absolutely dreadful at that end of the basketball court, and sometimes tough love's got to wake people up. But we'll see. Certainly, the first thought to me is both of these teams are trending over. This is not the Jim Larinaga Miami teams of the past where it's slow it down, play in the half court, play good defense, and struggle offensively. It's basically the reverse. They're playing with more pace. They're a pretty good offensive team led by Charlie Moore and Isaiah Wong and Cameron McGusty, but they have definitely not played as well defensively this year. So they've kind of went backward in that regard, Miami. You got Syracuse favored. It is their final home game. There is something to that. And they did really have a tough loss against North Carolina, that Monday night game, because they had a pretty good game. They were toe-to-toe with the Tar Heels. And then, of course, things just fell apart in overtime. And pretty brutal beat if you had Syracuse +8. Syracuse +8, they lose by 9 in overtime against North Carolina. I feel your pain because a couple days ago in the Big South tournament, I had Hampton in +6 against High Point, and they lost in overtime by 7. So I understand the pain of losing with an underdog in overtime. It's never a good feeling. So if you had Syracuse against North Carolina on Monday night, very much you have my sympathies for sure. I would lean Miami, even though I still think they're better than Syracuse, but I think the over's probably the play here. 150.5. I don't really like either team at the defensive end at the moment. I'm a little bit scratching my head because it's an early start, 1 p.m. Eastern. locally that they think it's going to be low scoring. But when you look at the numbers defensively of these two teams, it's hard to bet an under with them right now. And what did we see in the first meeting down in Miami, Coral Gables there? What did we see? 88-87, absolute shootout between these two teams. Total was 152.5. It got into the 170s. So this is a line move that I disagree with here in terms of the total. It's going down. I don't think it should be. I would look over the total in this one. All right, let's go to South Kakalaki, Auburn. Auburn, 15-point home favorites, 146 the total. I agree with this total move. I think we get over the total. South Carolina is one of those teams. They push the pace. They try to get up and down the court. Their defense is not going to stop any kind of good team. We've kind of seen that now in recent games. Alabama puts a 90 spot on the board against them. LSU scored 75 against them. 86 for Tennessee. 86 for Kentucky, 81 for Tennessee against this South Carolina team. Now you're playing Auburn. They're going to give up 70s, 80s. They might even give up 90 here because you got Auburn on their home floor where they're very, very good at the offensive end of the basketball court. I mean, overall, they're a very good offensive team. You get them at home, they're averaging 82 points per game this year, the Auburn Tigers, 46% shooting from three-point range. And then the South Carolina defense predictably gets weaker on the road. So you could even isolate this to an Auburn team total over if you like, if you don't trust South Carolina to get you some points in this game. But I would trust South Carolina to get me some points in this game. Outside of a home win against Mississippi State, where they only scored 66, we have seen South Carolina in 6 of their last 7. They put up 76, 80, 77, 77, 71, 73. You know, they have been able to get you high 60s into the 70s in a lot of these games. And if they can provide 65 for you in this game, the game's going over the total because Auburn's getting their 82, in my opinion. Do the math. 82 plus 65, 147. You know, that gets you, well, it doesn't get you over. It got you over the opening. No, it did. It will get you over this total. It is 146. I thought it was 147. Yeah, so 82.65 gets you over the total. And I think that's absolutely something we see here with the Gamecocks and the Tigers. So I like over the total. If I had to take a side, I'd lean to laying the points, but it's a lot of points. But when you look at South Carolina on the road against quality competition, it's not been pretty. It's not been pretty. I mean, even the home Tennessee at home, they lost by 10. Tennessee at home, they lost by 24. Kentucky at home, they lost by 10. And those were on their home floor. On the road, you know, they lost by 14 at Mississippi State. And Mississippi State's probably been next to Alabama, one of the most disappointing teams in the SEC this year. And you talk about a team that talent-wise is a lot better than they've shown with their record. I definitely think when you look at this South Carolina history here in conference play, they've struggled against the step-up teams other than the home win against LSU. I guess that's the one that they did play well. But now you got to do it on the road here against Auburn. It's a tricky spot. And they already lost to Auburn 81-66 earlier this year. And you look at last year in South Carolina as well, the only meeting. And that, again, in South Carolina. Today they're in Auburn. And last year Auburn beats South Carolina 109-86. And by the way, both of those games went over the total. You had 147 earlier this year. And then the last year's head-to-head meeting had 195 points. So I do like this game over the total here, South Carolina, Auburn. I'd only lay the points if I were to bet the game from a side perspective. All right, Indiana, Purdue. Purdue, 10-point home favorites, 141 the total in this game. Indiana's a weird basketball team to me that just no consistency whatsoever. They've been dreadful on the road, 3-7 straight up, 2-8 against the spread. Now you got to take on Purdue here in this matchup. A Purdue team, though, that from a point spread perspective, they've been dreadful. I mean, they had a push against Rutgers if you got minus 12. They pushed the closing number against Northwestern if you got minus 6. They won by 6. They beat Rutgers by 12. But other than that, I mean, they lost at Michigan as favorites. 1-point win home to Maryland as 17-point home favorites, and they never got even close to covering that number. And we've just seen them lose back-to-back games on the road outright as favorites against Michigan State and Wisconsin. So, yeah, I've got my concerns about laying 10 here with Purdue. There's no doubt. This is a team not playing their best basketball when their best basketball is required. This is when you want to be peaking. This is not the time you want to be scuffling and going in the other direction. And that's kind of what we're seeing here for Purdue at this point in time. What's happened to this juggernaut offense of theirs the last two games? Not good. 65, 67 points. This Purdue team looked like they were unstoppable at times, a machine, if you will, offensively early in the year with what they were putting up with Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey and Stefanovic and just all the weapons they can bring at you. And we just haven't seen Purdue really play with that kind of offensive efficiency here the last few games. So that's concerning. You got to be able to put the ball in the basket when you're a 10-point favorite. If you're going to end up getting cashing a winning ticket on said team. And right now we're not seeing Purdue bring that level of offensive execution required. So at the same time, do you want to back Indiana's road record? They did beat Minnesota in their last road game, but they lost in overtime against Ohio State by 11, blown out by Michigan State on the road, lose to Northwestern by 8. There's just been way too much inconsistency here from this Indiana squad away from home for me to trust them. And it's Purdue in revenge for losing against Indiana 68-65 back in January at Assembly Hall. So, I do think Purdue's bringing it. All the quotes are, we're bringing focus. It's our final home game. It feels like a Purdue spot to maybe wake up and blast Indiana, who are blastable on the road. We've seen that repeatedly. We know their offense can struggle too sometimes away from home. There's just way too much reliance on Trace Jackson Davis on this basketball team. And it's really, really hurt them. So has, by the way, the injury situation as well for Indiana. They've been battling a couple of key guards that have been banged up throughout the course of the week, especially Trey Galloway, who gives them a little bit of punch as well offensively. He's questionable for this game. That's concerning. If I had to bet it, I'd lean Purdue. I really would, because I think it kind of feels like this could be a good spot for them to wake up. An Indiana team that hasn't exactly impressed me away from home, but it's a lot of points. They've been struggling against the number. I'm going to pass, but have to, it's one of the games we want to talk about because it's a bigger game. We'll lean Purdue, but probably not going to get there with it. Kentucky, Florida. Kentucky, 5-point road favorites, 140 and a half the total in this game. I don't trust Florida to win any sort of big game against any sort of great team for me. Okay, they beat Auburn. I think that's the one game where Florida stepped up and got the job done. But I've seen enough of Auburn now to think that team is just flighty on the road. Okay, very, very flighty on the road. Hell, they almost lost to Mississippi State on the road just recently. A lot of Auburn's success has been on the home floor, so I'm not going to give Florida too much credit for that, beating Auburn 63-62. Every other game against a good team, fallen short. Arkansas fell short at home. Kentucky blown out in that game at Rupp Arena earlier this year. So, yeah, it's revenge for Florida, but I just don't have great faith in this team at the moment. I don't. And when I look at this matchup, Oscar Tshiebwe can erase Colin Castleton, and I think that's going to end up being critical here for success for Kentucky. That matchup is Tshiebwe's not going to lose many one-on-one matchups in that paint area. He's been that good. He's been that consistent, game in and game out for Kentucky. And I've been very impressed with what I've seen from the Wildcats these last 4 games. They put a beat down on Alabama. They beat LSU, a good team. Arkansas, if J.D. Note doesn't go off for 30 and hit every 3 in that game, and I needed every single one of those as someone that took Arkansas in that game, Kentucky might have won that game on the road last Saturday. And then you look at the Ole Miss game, 83-72, another good offensive performance. What I like is they've got Tshiebwe owning the paint. They've got Severe Wheeler, who transferred in, running the point, running the show at an extremely efficient, effective level. There's no question. 16 points, 7 assists, 2 turnovers in the last game. Just one of many examples of how well he's leading this team at the point guard position. They've got better shooting. Ty Washington's going to be a star player continue to be very good for this team. Keon Brooks, Davion Mintz, Kellen Grady from Davidson transferred in. And look, he hasn't even had a consistent shooting year this year by any stretch. He's only averaging 11.9 points per game, but on this team, they don't need him, to go off for 20, 30 points because it's a balanced attack. It's a, share the wealth type of offense here that Kentucky's got. So I just think they're better than Florida. I don't trust Florida in these kind of games. And it looks like the betting markets agree. A lot of these spots here, final home game, you would see maybe some money come in on Florida in revenge, a home underdog. Yet this line opened 4.5 on Kentucky, and guess what? It stayed put pretty much. In fact, it's gone to 5 in some spots. So basically, the betting markets are as reluctant to trust Florida as I am. That's what that is telling you right here. So yeah, Kentucky or nothing for me. I don't know if I'll lay the points either, but I know I don't want Florida. The preferred side for me would be Kentucky here in this game. All right, let's continue on here. We've got Virginia Tech, Clemson. Virginia Tech 2.5-point road favorites, 132 the total in this game. As far as this game is concerned, I think the Hokies are better, but I've had a weird little run of time with this team from a betting standpoint where I take them when they don't get it done, and then I stay off them when they play well. It's kind of the way it's been here for Virginia Tech with me trying to back them. Took them against North Carolina. They lost that game outright at home. I did finally jump on Virginia Tech when they won and they dominated last game against Louisville, but that was every bit fade Louisville as it was pro Virginia Tech wager for me when they crushed Louisville just a few days ago, 75-43, but a much needed victory for Virginia Tech in that game. Clemson's won 3 in a row. 2 of those, though, are Georgia Tech and BC, 2 of the worst teams in the ACC, so I don't want to get too crazy and excited about that. They did have a nice win against Wake Forest at home, 80-69. Before that, Virginia Tech beat Clemson 66-60 at home way back in December 15th. So these two teams, when they played each other in December, that was one of the first conference games for both of these teams. So it's been a while since they've played them. Virginia Tech, though, they've won 3 in a row. The Miami win was the good win. The other two, Georgia Tech, Louisville. They beat Virginia at home, beat Syracuse. On the road, I've liked what I've seen from Virginia Tech. They've got a nice little aura about them where they can go on the road, find ways to win. They beat Miami on the road, Georgia Tech. They beat Pittsburgh, beat Florida State by double digits. So on the road, they've been decent here, this Hokies team. We'll see how they fare here. However, they're road favorites here. They're not road underdogs. And road favorite role has been a little dicey for them. 0-3-1 ATS last 4 games as road favorites. But I'd still lean Virginia Tech here in this game. It will be a senior day for Clemson. They've got 4, I believe, Tyson, Fox, Bohannon, and David Collins that are going to be honored before the game. You always have to keep an eye on these senior. Every final home game in the regular season is called quote-unquote senior night, but what the hell does it matter if you've got no seniors on your team or one senior? You want to look for those situations where teams are honoring multiple seniors, and in particular, teams where the seniors are impact players and starters, and they really make a difference for your basketball team. That is where the senior night really comes into play, and it means more. Like, look at senior night last night for St. Bonaventure. You want to tell me that didn't matter to them? I mean, that's a senior-laden basketball team last night for them in Little Olean, New York. Against Richmond last night, and the spirit and the emotion in the venue last night, I think that's what powered them through against Richmond, because things were back and forth there for a while. Things were didn't look great at a point in time in that game for the Bonnies, but they powered through, found a way to get a big final home win in the regular season. Look, and for them, the senior night meant more because that's a more experienced upperclassman, senior-laden basketball team. So again, when you're evaluating, final home game, senior night, make sure you're actually looking into how many seniors are on that team. And in particular, are those seniors impact players? Are they starters? Do they drive the bus? Are they players that this team counts on for success? That's the kind of shit you got to look at when you're looking at this kind of thing. You can't just say, senior night. Got to bet on that team. Well, they have no seniors, so what the hell good is it? Or one senior, and he's maybe a guy off the bench who gives you 3 points per game. It's not the same thing. It just isn't. So keep an eye on those dynamics on a day like today. So, but in this game right here, when I look at Virginia Tech, Clemson, even though it is senior night for Clemson, I still think Virginia Tech's better team. So lean Virginia Tech. Might stay off the game, but I lean to the road favorite there. Seton Hall, Creighton. Creighton pick 'em -1, 135.5 the total in this game. I could only take Seton Hall here. Seton Hall's been another team where they've frustrated me at times this year. They've had some really, really poor games. They've had some good wins too, so they've been all over the map. They're still 19-9. It just feels like it hasn't been a very impressive 19-9 for Seton Hall. But are they starting to round into form? They might be. They've won 4 in a row, beating DePaul, Butler, Xavier, Georgetown. That's not exactly a great group of wins. 3 of those teams are absolutely terrible, and Xavier's kind of struggling right now. Not kind of, they are struggling right now, Xavier. So really, where was any of those wins a great win for Seton Hall? Villanova, UConn, 2 of the better teams. They lost those games, so that is concerning. But and then before that, they beat Xavier, Creighton, and Georgetown. So you could really make an argument. When's the last really good win Seton Hall got? But I'll say this right now about Creighton, and a credit to them for digging in defensively against UConn, because it's their defense that won them that game. But this is now 2 games in a row since the injury to Ryan Nemhard, where this offense has looked totally out of sync and not very good. I think they're kind of lost at the moment without him. That's concerning. And this is a guy that obviously made the straw that stirred the drink essentially for the Blue Jays. And without him now, the rest of the season, for 2 games without him, they've scored 115 points in the 2 games combined. So that's an average of what, 57.5 points per game? Not good. This has definitely been a Creighton team that struggled without without their point guard. I mean, Ryan Nemhard's been a massive impact injury for Creighton. And if Seton Hall brings defense, and they're capable of doing that, and they have been better defensively of late. The UConn game, I didn't think they played terribly defensively, but they just couldn't make a shot when it mattered. That's why they lost that game on the road. But this has been a better Seton Hall team defensively. They've covered 5 straight on the road. Bryce Aiken is concerning that he's been out indefinitely with this concussion issue. He has been someone that they've missed. There's no question. You're taking 14.5 points per game out with him not being on the floor. We'll see if he's back today. I'm not so sure. But when I look at this game here between Seton Hall and Creighton, for me, it's the Pirates. I mean, I think Creighton's really going to have a tough time offensively here, or the Blue Jays going to have a tough time offensively here right now with what they're rolling out. It hasn't been pretty at that end of the basketball court. So I would look for Seton Hall here on the road to find a way to get this win. You're getting Pick'em +1 here with Seton Hall. That would be the preferred side for me in this one. A few quick hitters. Let's do Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. I'll tell you what, Texas Tech should beat them and cover. They're better than Oklahoma State, but Texas Tech looks like one of those teams to me that they've kind of, I don't want to say they've mentally checked out, but I think they're looking at the Big 12 tournament. I really think that's where their focus is now, and they're going on the road for what's kind of a meaningless finale. They've dropped 2 in a row ATS. They've looked kind of not disinterested. They haven't been totally locked in like they were for much of the Big 12 season. Like you can tell when Texas Tech's flat, they're a little uninspired, and when they're not. And the last 2 games, they don't look like they've been as inspired. They blew the game against TCU. They were life and death. Every time they looked like they were going to put Kansas State to bed and blow that team out, there's Kansas State ripping off an 8-0 run, and they're right back in the game. They just didn't play a complete 40 minutes in that game either, Texas Tech. So, the mindset kind of tells you that maybe this team's just looking forward to the Big 12 tournament a little bit. So for that reason, I don't think I'd lay the points in this spot with the Red Raiders. Oklahoma State, you know what? They've been one of the more misleading teams in the last 4 games. I mean, they nearly beat Baylor. They could have beaten them. They nearly beat Oklahoma, and they lost by just 4 in overtime there. And then they absolutely put the clamps down on Iowa State, 53-36, 36 points allowed. That's it to the Cyclones in that game. It is a capable team. They've kind of underachieved, and this is the final home game in the regular season for this Oklahoma State team. No postseason for them, of course. So for the Cowboys, this is like one of those spots where you're playing for pride here. You're playing for your final game of the entire season. Like this is it for Oklahoma State. There's no conference tournament. There's no postseason tournament. There's no NCAA tournament. There's no NIT. There's no CBI. There's no CIT. There's none of those things for Oklahoma State. So for them, this is a goodbye. This is a bon voyage game for them. So if they have a Super Bowl if they treat any game like their Super Bowl, it's this game here against Texas Tech. So you've got, Texas Tech's better than Oklahoma State, but Texas Tech could be disinterested. They've shown signs of being disinterested the last couple of games. And for Oklahoma State, this game is it for them. This is their everything. This is it for them. This is their final game. So I think situationally it screams Oklahoma State, but am I going to bet them? No, I'm not. I think it's a tricky game, but that's your case for Oklahoma State. That for Texas Tech, this is just get this game done, get to the Big 12 tournament later this week. For Oklahoma State, you want to go out with a win here in your final game. Just quickly on Rice, Texas, San Antonio. I've already taken that game over the total. 147 is what I got. It's up to 149. I'm even seeing 149 and a half and 150 starting to show up. I agree with the move. I've been taking this Rice team over the total in a lot of games. No defense at all from this group, none whatsoever. But they play with pace offensively, and they can score the ball a little bit. And UTSA, the Roadrunners, you look at their recent results. I know they were totally shut down in their last two games offensively by UAB, North Texas. Both of those games stayed way under the total. Those are two excellent defensive teams, in particular North Texas. North Texas knows how to defend. This is your get well game for Texas San Antonio at the offensive end of the floor. Let's not forget, before those two losses, this was a team that scored 98 on Southern Miss. They got into the 70s against a pretty solid Louisiana Tech team, 75 against Middle Tennessee, 78 against Rice earlier this year when they played the Owls. This is their spot for them to get back on track offensively. There's a reason this total is going up, and I do agree with it, over for Rice and Texas San Antonio in that game. Let's see what else we've got here as we continue along. Fresno State, Wyoming. Let's talk about that little Mountain West. Good matchup here. Wyoming, 4-point home favorites, 127.5 the total in this game. Wyoming, I'm getting a little bit concerned about the way they're playing right now. This is a group that I've not liked the way their form has been in the last few games. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, 61-55 at Colorado State, 73-66 home loss to the Aztecs, and then they lost to UNLV on the road a couple days ago, 64-57, kind of trending downward. Wyoming, let's be honest. That's kind of what we're seeing here a bit. Another sign of a team that, for most of the season they've played very well, but kind of struggling at the worst time. And now you look at what's happened here with Hunter Maldonado, who, of course, is a player they rely on extremely to a high level. And he might not play due to a injury today in this game against Fresno, which would obviously be massive if he doesn't go for the Cowboys here in this game. They really rely on him and Graham Ike quite a bit on this group. Fresno coming off a tough loss against San Diego State just a couple days ago, 65-64. This is a tough spot for Fresno in that they were on the road against San Diego State. They lost in overtime. It was a heartbreaker. And now they got to play on the road just a couple of days later, 2 games in 3 days on the road now against this Wyoming team where it's never easy to win. That San Diego State loss was their first home loss all year in Laramie. So it's a bit of a tricky spot here for Wyoming, for Fresno. It kind of feels like I should be, and I want to be backing Wyoming here at home. Do we really think they're going to lose 2 in a row at home? But if Maldonado doesn't go, that's a game changer. That changes everything in terms of the handicap here for this game. So I've got to know if he's going to play. We'll have to wait and see if that is indeed the case. If he doesn't, it would probably take away any consideration for Wyoming for me. If he does play, you'll probably also see the line go up, obviously, if he does play. If he does, I might consider Wyoming. And Fresno's very good and is good enough to battle Wyoming toe-to-toe and maybe even win this game. I wouldn't put it past them. And they are in revenge. They lost at home to Wyoming 61-59 last month. But, Wyoming, if they've got Maldonado on the floor, knowing they lost their last home game, they need a good win here going into the Mountain West tournament. I would lean Wyoming if Maldonado suits up. That's the way I'm considering it here. VCU, St. Louis. St. Louis, 2.5-point home favorites, 136 the total here in this game. VCU, man, they're playing some really good basketball, and even I've got to admit that. Early in the season, I was trying to bet against them a little bit. I didn't like their offense a whole lot. That offense is churning right now. It's been 8 straight wins for VCU, they've covered, I believe, in 6 of those games. They're scoring 70s in every game. It's just a team now that when you're seeing them now with everybody on the floor, healthy, it's not anymore just all reliant upon Baldwin here for VCU. Vince Williams has stepped up, but he did miss the last game for VCU with an ankle injury and may not play here for the Rams. He averages 12.8 points per game, so that's something to keep an eye on. They'd love to have him on the floor, but will he be able to play in this game? Also, Marcus Sahonis, 5.6 points per game, questionable with a concussion here for VCU in this game. But, they've been absolutely terrific. Point spread team, 8-1 ATS is a road dog, 9-1 ATS is an underdog overall going into this game, and they're catching points here against St. Louis. Now, it's a first meeting actually this year, and only conference meeting between these two teams. I like the Billikens too. I mean, that's why this is a really good game here in the A10. St. Louis, of course, led by Yuri Collins, Jordan Nesbitt, Gibson Jimerson, Fred Thatch. Good quartet there offensively for this group. Defensively, they've kind of not been that same, shut down St. Louis Billikens defense this year. They've not been nearly as good at that end of the floor, but they have been very good offensively. One of the better St. Louis teams offensively here in the last couple of years. So, this is a really good game. If Vince Williams doesn't go, they'll probably tilt the scales to St. Louis a bit. But VCU, every time I bet against them, it's not ended well. I remember I took Richmond against them when they hosted Richmond a few weeks ago, and they beat the hell out of Richmond, 77-57. So, this is a team that I've underestimated, and I don't think I'm going to be underestimating them again. They've played very well. Vince Williams has been a big part, though, of that offense working the way it has the last few weeks. So, definitely. Connor's coming. I just got a message, Sean, that from Connor Mack. He's on his way. Probably slept through his alarm or some shit. Alex does that all the time. Alex B. Smith on my NHL Ice Guys hockey show. Sleeps through his alarm and either misses a show or doesn't arrive till later. So it happens. What are you going to do? It's a Saturday morning. I'm going to cut C-Mac some slack. It's like not even 8 a.m., where he is right now. It's pretty damn early for a Saturday. I'm amazed that he's, basically been here right when we're ready to start the show every Saturday till now. So I'm cutting him some slack. It's all good. That's okay. You know me. I can do a show flying solo for 3 hours straight. That's just me. I can do it. It's never a problem for me. Never an issue. Speaking of never an issue, Texas, Kansas. Never an issue seeing these two teams playing a Big 12 matchup that has a lot of people interested. Kansas 6.5-point home favorites, 136.5 the total in this game. Texas, of course, beat Kansas at home earlier this year, so revenge situation for Kansas. But again, buyer beware in this game. Kansas hasn't exactly played sharp basketball the last couple of games. Even the revenge game again, they lost to TCU. They looked totally discombobulated last week. And then even the game against TCU in the rematch, it's not like it took them a while for Kansas to finally put that team away. They were 11.5-point favorites. I know a lot of people really liked them to put away TCU and just blow them out in that game. And 72-68, they struggled to win that game at all, let alone cover against TCU. And from a spot perspective, this is definitely a bit better situational spot for Texas. Texas had a whole week off since losing to Baylor. Now they got to go on the road where, they haven't exactly been great beating good teams on the road this year. That's your concern. But for Texas now, this is going to be your third game in 5 days, which is very rare in college basketball. But because of scheduling issues we've seen at times this year, Kansas is in a spot where they're playing 3 games in 5 days, which is very, very odd. So it's not a good situation, in my opinion. They just played TCU at home Thursday. Big 12 teams never play a Thursday home game during the regular season, but they had to reschedule one of these games, and as a result, they had to fit it in somewhere, and they played it Thursday. So this is definitely a disadvantage for Kansas. There's no question about that. Now they are better than Texas, I think. I still trust them more. They're playing with revenge. That does help them. Longhorns have been bad against the number lately as well. 1-5 ATS their last 6 games. That's not been very good of late. So back and forth I go, but boy, 6.5, I've got to consider Texas. I really do in this game because just the scheduling situation and just the scheduling disadvantage that Kansas has going into this game. That's significant. Texas's offense can disappear. I understand that. Their defense usually is pretty good, although they had that game against West Virginia on the road. I don't know how they allow 81 and 50% shooting. It wasn't great. But nevertheless, I think it's just too many points given the situation here. So I would lean a little bit to Texas here, plus 6.5 in this game. All right, let's continue along here. We've got, see what we got. Just briefly on Oregon, Washington State. Washington State 2-point home favorites, 136 the total. Oregon as an underdog is always appealing to me. This team has just been as erratic and inconsistent as I've ever seen it under Dana Altman. I mean, losing to USC is not a big deal at home. USC is a pretty solid team. Losing at Washington on the road is not good. I've got to believe there's a response from Dana Altman's team here in this game against Washington State, and they have covered 4 straight as an underdog, Oregon. And if you remember, underdog against Arizona, they nearly beat them on the road. Underdog at home against UCLA, they did win that game. So they're in the point spread role that I like them. Getting points, they're off a bad loss. I still think there's talent on this team. Will Richardson, Jacob Young. This is a team that's got a good nucleus there that they shouldn't be this damn inconsistent. Quincy Guerrier from Syracuse, Davion Harmon, another guy that ended up transferring into this program from Oklahoma. I mean, this is definitely a team that should be better than they've been, better and more consistent than they've been. But I always like to get Oregon off that kind of loss because we saw this against Arizona where they had the bad loss to Arizona State, and they went to Arizona, one of the better teams in the country, and they nearly beat Arizona. They were big underdogs there in that game. This is the spot. This is the point spread range I trust Oregon in. They're getting 2. They're in desperate times. Washington State's been just too flighty for me as well. They've had some good games, and I like Kyle Smith, good coach, but too inconsistent for me at both ends of the floor. One game they shoot, one game they don't. One game they defend, one game they don't. I think Oregon shows up today. They have to. Their backs are against the wall. They cannot afford any kind of hiccups now, or as few hiccups as possible the rest of the way if they hope to be a tournament team. So I like Oregon a little bit there as a small road dog at Washington State and a bounce back here today. Look who's here. It's our guy, Conor Mack. Welcome in, Conor. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I had a few things to do. I'm sorry
That's
that I'm
all right.
late today. Thanks for holding it down.
At least you're not sleeping through your
appreciate
alarm
it.
like Alex on the hockey show. That's good.
Well, you know me. I'm here, win, rain, or shine. Usually. Let's roll. Thanks for holding it down, though, for this first time.
Oh yeah, all good.
I really appreciate it.
But I could use a vocal rest. I will admit. Yeah.
Definitely. What game are we on? And let's get to more.
Oregon, Washington State, and any games like noon Eastern, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern. We went through all those games, pretty much the main games. If there's anything you like from noon until the first 4 hours of the card, essentially, you can let us know right now as well.
Let's run through it. Let me give you a few minutes here. Let's get right to it. Let me get to the beginning. Louisville, Virginia here was my first one on the board. I like Louisville here. I'm going to take Louisville. Let me fix this here. Okay. Virginia, Louisville, under City for me here. I don't trust this Louisville team, even getting 4 points at home. I'm on the under here. Last night it was 125. It's down to 123.5. I am on that. Let's keep rolling. Arkansas, Tennessee. This game's very interesting to me now that there are 6s out there. Is this Tennessee team that good? I don't know. I don't buy it. Rick Barnes, they've been really good, especially defensively. I also looked at this game early on, the under, 139.5. And I don't know if I can get there with the 6 with Arkansas. I'll just keep rolling here. Villanova, Butler. I like Butler a little bit. The only problem is I want double digits here with them at home, only getting 8.5. They played a lot better basketball, especially at home. This is a team that can be trusted. We've seen Villanova. They can't be trusted out on the road. So I like the 8.5, 9 with Butler there. I'll just keep heading down this line. real quick. Boston College, Georgia Tech, pass for me there. Alabama, LSU, huge game here. I'm going to lay it here with LSU. I just don't trust Alabama not bounce back. I don't think they shoot the ball well. If they can't defend and shoot it on the road, how are they going to do that? At home, how are they going to do it on the road at LSU? So lay it here with LSU. Okay, make sure that. Lay it, baby. Lay the 3.5 in that one. There should be plenty of points. I think we could get over 154. It's already moved, though, from 152 from last night. I'll keep rolling down the line here. Davidson, Dayton was a pass for me. Marist, Niagara, I have nothing. Miami, Syracuse, interesting spot here. This total has come crashing down to 150. I'm off this game. I think Syracuse, this is a massive win after the game I thought they might show up against Duke and got their ass whipped last week. That was one of my only really bad losses last Saturday. They could win here against Miami. Obviously, Miami's been unbelievable on the road, as all you guys know. Their record, the people that have been on Miami on the road, I don't blame you for wanting to stick with Miami here. Let's keep rolling down the line. Fairfield, St. Peter's, I have nothing in that game. South Carolina, Auburn. I kind of like South Carolina with the points. I don't know if I take this game here. It's they played better basketball last Saturday. They didn't cover. This Auburn team's very good, but I haven't bet that yet. That was the game I had circled. I want to keep rolling through here. LSU was a big one, I bet. Let's keep rolling. NC State, Florida State. Florida State -7, total 144 here. It's going to be a pass for me. These two teams are horrible. One thing I think this can get is over the total. I know it's come down, but I don't trust NC State defensively. And Florida State offensively has had trouble, but I look to the over here, even though this has come down a little bit in that Florida State game. Right down the line, Indiana, Purdue. Pass for me here. Purdue, so much better at home. This seems like the perfect bounce back for them to just come in, get a nice home win. Indiana been better on the road. Is 10 enough? I don't think so. I need even more. Purdue, this is where they excel. One problem, though, where Purdue might not cover this in is they're at why they might not cover this is their defense. Purdue cannot defend, whether it's home or away. Kind of mentioned that with Alabama.
Can't score right now either. 60s in the last two games.
Yeah, and then that Indiana will cover if they stay in the 60s. I think they could cover. And then they can't score. So Ivy, Edie, all those guys need to have a big game. I think they will. They usually do at home. You got to lay the big number, though. Maybe look team total there. I'd have to look that up. What is it? 73 or something like that? Do you know by chance?
Purdue team total?
Yeah, Purdue team total.
Purdue team total, it would be, let me just, hold on. Let me just double check on this. Purdue team total. All right, Purdue. Let me just do a search. 75.5.
75.5. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I thought it might have been 73, 74. Maybe look there. But yeah, that one's a tough one. Let me roll the next one. These are some of the better games that I liked here. One sec.
Yep.
Kentucky, Florida. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'd actually maybe looking to back Florida. I don't think I am in the end. Just a tough spot for Kentucky. Florida needs this badly. You know what I like here, but it's already come crashing down, is the under. When it was at 142. Now it's at 139.5. So I'm off there. Middle Tennessee, Old Dominion. Interesting game. I have not played. Dealing with that. I'm going to skip it for now. TCU, West Virginia. How about TCU? How about this team? I mean, I backed them. I thought they were going to go to Kansas. I thought, wow, not only they covered, they won. They're going to go to Kansas and lose by 14 or 15. And they played them tough the whole way through. I don't think this Kansas team's very good, like I talked about. I mean, I think it's good, but it's not, Final Four championship worthy, especially on the defensive end. I kind of like TCU catching a few points here on the road, and the number's gone against. That's why. I mean, I already see a 3 at DraftKings. There's 2.5. It's just a lean for me, but I'd be on TCU a little bit here.
Did you mention Miami Syracuse? What do you think of that game?
Yes, I just went over that. I'm passing. How do you not, if you've been on Miami, like I was mentioning, and how well they've been on the road, how do you jump off them now? It just seems the ultimate spot for, like, Syracuse is going to win here. I just don't, you know what I mean? Like Boeheim, they desperately need this to even. They're going to have to make a run anyways, in the conference
How the hell
tournament.
is the total going down 4 points? How?
I was shocked by that. I get the initial move, but yeah, it's interesting. It's come down that much. Yeah, do you like Miami there?
I like Miami a little. I like the over too. I can't believe it's down to 150. I mean, Miami's not even a great defensive team either, and Syracuse can't stop anybody. And Boeheim's ripping their defense publicly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it just there at the Carrier Dome. That was I thought they'd play a lot better, and Duke is just way better than them and just smashed them right away. Defensively, and then when they don't hit shots, they're not very good. Especially defensively. Let me touch on a couple more, and I'll throw it to you here. Virginia Tech, Clemson. I love the under last night. It's moved too much, I think, now at 132 here. I don't know about Virginia Tech. I know Clemson's dealing with the injuries, so I'm going to pass on the side there in that game. That's about it. I'm going to keep rolling. Seton Hall, Creighton. Pass for me here. Obviously, Creighton with the huge win with Nebhard out. That was the only thing I was worried about. They stepped up, played great, beat UConn the other day. So can they do it again? I think that's more of an under, but we'll see. 135.5. Seton Hall plays great defense. They even stayed under in that Georgetown game the other day after a big first half. They stayed under in that one. I'll keep rolling here. Anyone I want to touch on? Arizona State. How can you not want to take this team right now the way they're playing? It just seems like lay the 6 points. This is a whole different team. We talk about all these teams are different this time of year. This is one of them. I have a few teams too. We'll go through later. Is Max coming on?
Yeah, he'll be joining us pretty soon. Yep.
Okay. When we get to some of the other ones, the smaller ones and the tourneys, I have a bunch of games there too today, more than normal. But Arizona State here, I'm going to lay the 6 in that spot. Stanford played well the other night. I mean, good enough. They covered as massive dogs against Arizona. So in that one, North Texas UTEP, this team just keeps. Now we're down to 119, which is what it should be. I'm surprised they've been in the. Yep. Yeah, it's just they can cover this 5, I think, and keep this game under 118. That's how unbelievable defensively they're at the top, and then pace-wise offensively, and kind of just efficient enough just to keep the game, under and slow. So the score was just like me and Max talked about the other day. It was 59-48 or whatever it was there. Let's keep going here. I have a couple more I wanted to touch on. Initially, I wanted to look at this line. Yeah, it's still the same. VCU, St. Louis. What a good game here, Ian. I think this is an under. I think VCU's defense comes to play. St. Louis at 135.5. That's the only way I could look here in this one. Another one I wanted to get at, if we get Max in here, is Fresno State, Wyoming. This is a big game for Wyoming, struggling a little bit. Obviously, San Diego State shot the lights out that night. I mean, I got to give them credit. They went into Laramie, won it on senior night. But they go to UNLV, and UNLV's playing great basketball. They lose by 7. They haven't looked awful, but they just kind of look out of it. This is a massive game for them. I don't trust them right now laying the 4.5. And This total's gone up. I disagree. If you watch any Fresno game lately, and even Wyoming, maybe they get hot shooting, Ian. But even at 127, these teams, I don't know if they break 60 today. And I've been watching them, both these teams games the last, I don't know, 3-4 weeks regularly. Wyoming can't break 60 here, so I like the under. I am a disagree here with the move. I know it's moved, but all the way to 127.5, give me the under here.
All right, great time to bring Maxwell Smart in.
Bring him in.
We've got lots of games. We'll get right to it. Let's get into the good stuff. We'll get back to the regular season main board. We'll talk UNC Duke, that puke fest with Coach K later in the show. We'll talk about USC, UCLA, LA battle. Talk about some of those games. St. John's Marquette. I do have an opinion on that game. We'll get to that later, but we're getting to the good stuff now. Conference tournaments, the added board, a lot of big stuff going down. Quarterfinals, semifinals. There's some bids being awarded. We have a championship game tonight in the Ohio Valley, Murray State, Moorhead. We're going to get to all that right now with Max. Max, let's start in the SoCon. We got quarterfinals, Citadel, Chattanooga. Chattanooga 13-point favorites, 146 the total in this one. Citadel needing overtime in a crazy game with East Tennessee State yesterday to get past them. How much do they have left in the tank? Are they going to have the shooting legs? And this is a team that needs them. They shoot a lot of threes. Will they be able to make them here and hang around getting 13? What do you think there? Muted, Matt.
Unless you get some really nice outlier performances, Ian, from Hayden Brown, from freaking Mafi, from freaking Roush, they don't have a chance today. This Chattanooga team, even when their stars are having a bad shooting game, they can still beat you and grind it out. I think that Citadel definitely tries to push the tempo. They're not going to try and play a 65-point type scoring game today. And I think that the higher scoring this is in the first half, the better it is for Citadel. However, at the end of 40 minutes, I do think Chattanooga will be putting their foot in their ass, sort of like I put something in Glenn's wife.
I know who you're talking about. Definitely when I look at it, the first half over, you're right. Because, look, I took the full game over with Citadel and East Tennessee State, and I got lucky. And the scoring died in the second half of that game yesterday, and I got lucky because it went to overtime. So I think if you like points first half and then maybe the legs and they hit the wall in the second half, Citadel, and it could be a very low scoring second half, kind of like it was yesterday for that Citadel in that game. So definitely with you there. Connor, did you have any thoughts on that game?
I did not. I'm passing on that early one, that first one. I'm off.
All right, VMI Wofford 6-point favorites, 146.5 the total. I think VMI could be a dangerous team in this tournament. I think a couple other people I've spoken to kind of think so as well. I'm leaning to the points with the Keydets here. What do you think, Max? It's muted again.
You're on mute, brother.
You're on mute, Max.
I'm talking on mute again. Sorry, guys. Ian, when I look at VMI, when I look at this personnel, they are built for this situation, for this type of game, and to make a run like you're talking about. Jake Stevens down low is a legitimate 7-footer that has range from freaking inside the rim to freaking outside the 3-point line. And I think that the biggest X factor for this team, while a lot of people will lean towards Camdy Curfman, I think Trey Bonham, with his ability to break someone off the dribble and get to the rim, that's really important because what do we see from VMI? A ton of long distance shooting, but sometimes not an ability to really break someone defensively down and take them and get to the free throw line. So I like VMI team total over 70.5 in this game a lot more than the side.
All right, so team total. And again, you don't have to worry then about what Wofford does offensively. Just focus on what VMI is able to do. Mercer and Furman. Furman 7-point home favorites, 138.5, 139 the total. Certainly, I would expect Furman to win. It's a question of, do you want to lay 7? Do you want to lay 7.5? Mercer's been very up and down, very inconsistent. They played a terrific game, dominant against Western Carolina. I thought Western would be a little bit better than they were, but give Mercer credit for that. And look, they didn't have to really tax themselves too much. It was a blowout. They got to rest some people down the stretch. That certainly is going to help them, and they need all the help they can get trying to beat Furman here. What do you think, Max?
I think that with Mercer, the biggest thing for me is that they're finally healthy. When you have so many different options that you can bring in and out of the lineup, and we're talking about being able to play in a tournament game against Western Carolina where you don't have to start Jalen Johnson or Felipe Haase. I think that when you have a good point guard, when you have multiple ball handlers like this Mercer team does, that is when I think that the expectations should be the highest. I think that Furman's got to play a good game. And with their 3 15-point per game stars, I think Jalen Slauson's the most important one. If Slauson isn't able to be effective and productive, I do think Furman has a little bit more trouble. But having that game under your belt yesterday did not work out for a lot of teams in second rounds. So hopefully Mercer can go against that trend today.
All right, good stuff there. Yeah, Furman has definitely had the better of it against Mercer. There's no denying. We'll see if that continues here. We'll see against in this one. All right, next up, Greensboro, Samford. Greensboro, 1.5-point favorites, 134 the total in this game. When I look at it here, Greensboro certainly going to want to slow this down. It's clash of styles, definitely. UNC is going to want to slow it down. Samford going to want to get this thing going up and down the basketball court. It's going to be interesting to see who is able to dictate what here in this game against Samford. Samford was one of the teams down the stretch starting to play much better, but they ran into Chattanooga and they got whipped pretty good, 70-57. Before that, though, they beat Greensboro just a few weeks ago, beat Citadel, beat Furman in a huge upset. So Samford's actually played better basketball. We'll see how if they can do it, get another win against the Spartans, because they beat them the last time they faced them. I'm kind of leaning Samford a little bit here. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, no, I think that when you look at Samford and you look at that game from a couple weeks ago, it was pretty interesting to see Samford be able to beat Greensboro at their own game. And we talk about this Samford team having the individual scorer in Q Glover. That's really got to be he's got to be the tip of the spear. I think that with this Samford team, it is important to know that they do play a little better earlier on in the day than we've seen Greensboro. So that's something definitely to take note of. I think that with Samford, though, you do have the better style of offense. You don't need to be I don't think that you need to be completely dominant on the glass against this Greensboro team. You just got to make sure that you're getting to the free throw line, and that you're not putting them on the free throw line. With DeMonte Buckingham, this is a guy that's very physical. This is a guy that can create his own shot and get hot from three. You got to stop that, get right back on the horse, and ride along. UNC Greensboro's in your way. Time to run them over.
There we go. Run them over, says Max, for Samford over Greensboro there. Connor, did you have anything that you were eyeing betting-wise in that SoCon tournament?
VMI. I love the 70.5, maybe even better than the 6, Max, I think, is a good look. And one thing with VMI, I know Wofford can play a little bit of defense. If they have totals in the mid-140s, they seem to get there somehow, some way, all year long. They've been really good to the over. So as long as it's not in the 150s, I think this game, that could get over 146.5. I'm off Mercer Furman. How do you not like Samford, the Samford team? Samford and Sons. Samford here, though. I liked the 2 last night. I think they could win outright. It's a strong lean for me. I'm going to wait on that game. But, yeah, I lean Samford a little bit there.
There you go, liking Samford in that one. All right, Sun Belt. I'll just throw them all at you here, Max. Quarterfinals: UL Lafayette, Texas State; Little Rock, Troy; Arkansas State, Georgia State; Georgia Southern, App State. The only plays I'm considering are two of the favorites, Texas State and Georgia State. I think Texas State's a very good team. I think I've cashed with them a couple of times. And I think this Georgia State team is the team to watch out for here in this Sun Belt tournament. I think they're playing their best down the stretch. We know they're always a very, very formidable team at this time of year. So I'm liking Texas State, Georgia State. What do you think of the Sun Belt quarters, Max?
Yeah, the Sun Belt's a league with a lot of parity, but it is still very difficult to beat a team three times in one season. I think that with Texas State to start with, it's so important for their trio of guards in Asbury, Shelby Adams, and obviously Mason Harrell to be able to get going inside, open up the defense to give them some 3-point looks, and then once again, the biggest issue for them is if their jump shots aren't dropping, how do they stop the force that is Theo Akuba, that is Jordan Brown, that's Don Gee? There's a lot of front court strength and quality for this ULL team. So it's really, you can be in two sides of a camp on this one. If you think ULL's size and the absence of Kobe Julian won't hurt them in this game, then you're taking the dog. But I'm going against the line movement, and I'm looking at that four with Texas State. I think it's Bobcat times to fuck with their eyes open and then get some sex from a certain guy named Glenn's wife.
Okay, there we go. So that's the main one, right? Texas State for you?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Texas State for me there for sure.
All right, so that's the one. Not a strong opinion on the others. Connor, did you have any thoughts?
So
go ahead.
I will actually give you a quick opinion on the others. I got a little carried away with my Texas State breakdown, but I will say this. Arkansas Little Rock, if they can score early, that first half team total may be 2 points too low. Georgia State with Alil Newsome back in the lineup, giving a nice platoon or a big lineup with Jalen Thomas and him playing on the floor together gives Georgia State a big advantage. And I think with App State, this is a team that I've been a first half bet on team for me. I will continue that. Georgia Southern, a bunch of scumbags. They can't hit threes. They can't hit free throws, but somehow they're in this game. So very perplexed.
Very good. Any opinions for you on the Sun Belt, Connor? Is there anything you're possibly going to bet from those 4 games?
Yeah, then in these games, I look at unders here. I don't think, some of these games, I think the number's decent. Even in this Texas State game, the under, as you get a little bit lower one in Georgia Southern, App State. They play under basketball and on a neutral court, sight lines, everything like that. Give me the under here. I like the under in the Lafayette, Texas State. I'm with Max. If I had to, I'd kind of lean to lay it with them, the 4.5. If I had to play a side there.
I agree. I like that Bobcats team quite a bit. Briefly on the Colonial, there's only one in the first round. That tournament starts today. Northeastern, William and Mary. Oh my gosh, it's an ugly one. Northeastern 7-point favorites, 131 the total. I mean, you really want to lay 7 with Northeastern, but William and Mary, it's hard to back them right now with what we've seen. They just got held in the 30s in one game just recently. I mean, that's a rough one. Sorry, Matt Janning. I saw him in the chat earlier, Northeastern alum. I'm not laying 7 with that group, but at the same time, I'm not going to be looking at William and Mary. Max, any thoughts on that one? It's an ugly one.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be points in this game. One thing that we have to remember with Northeastern, that if you get a game lined in the high 130s, low 140s, they've been a decent freaking over team. I think that with this game being a tournament game, we are going to see this game be extended if it is within that 7 to 9 point range in the last couple minutes. I do think that gives us a big enough boost. However, with Northeastern, I love my Canadian contingency on this team with 4 active players having and possessing one of our passports, Ian. But I'm not going to lay points with them like this. I think that if William and Mary can avoid their previous game against Northeastern where they scored 28 points, they should be able to help this game get the total over. As far as the side, it's dog or pass, but I feel filthy just thinking about betting this spread.
Yeah, over with William and Mary, you kind of feel like you need to take a shower after considering that when you saw the one game that they played recently where there was one of the worst offensive performances you'll ever see in a college basketball game. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, it's hard to get that out of my head. It's just so crazy, that game. I think, though, they cover here. I'm dead serious. I told you the next game they would cover last Saturday, and they did. I think they lost by 15 to Hofstra. They were 18.5-point dogs. There's just no way Northeastern should be laying points anywhere. I know, like you said, shout out to Matt Janning, but Northeastern's just not a very good team. They shouldn't be laying 7 or 8. And I would close my eyes, hold my nose, whatever the hell, people say, and bet William and Mary.
Yeah, definitely. It's an ugly game for sure, that one. Missouri Valley. These ones are a little more interesting. I got to admit, these are two pretty good semifinals in the Missouri Valley. Loyola Chicago, Northern Iowa. They just played last week in Cedar Falls, and I was on Northern Iowa. It was a great game. Lots of points, great offense. Both sides. It went to OT. Northern Iowa won. They play in the first semi. Drake, Missouri State in the second semi. We've got Loyola Chicago 3.5-point favorites, 137.5 the total against Northern Iowa. Missouri State 1.5-point favorites, 136.5 the total against Drake. Unders have been ruling this tournament. They usually rule this tournament every year. Arch Madness in St. Louis certainly would lean that way in both games. As far as the side goes, first thing I saw when I saw -4 on Loyola, I'm like, I got to take Northern Iowa. I mean, that's really crazy. But Loyola played great yesterday. That was Loyola's A game against Bradley. They crushed them. They're in revenge for last week. I think the odds makers maybe favored Loyola by 4 for a reason in this game. Maybe because they're going to show you something here against Northern Iowa today. So I kind of backed off my Northern Iowa stance. The side I like most is Missouri State. I think they take care of Drake. I like Dana Ford. I like this offense with Gage Prim and Isaiah Mosley. I think they're going to be able to get the job done. Drake beat an unimpressive Southern Illinois team that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with anything they shot at the basket last night. That's not Missouri State. Missouri State will score points. Missouri State is a good offensive team. And I still think Drake, with the injury to Wilkins, significant. And maybe that's an injury that didn't show up last night against a weaker Saluki team. Maybe it's going to show up here. So Missouri State's probably the side I like most. Max, what do you think, Missouri Valley?
Yeah, I definitely like the unders, but the numbers I got are long gone, so I won't even bother wasting time on that. I think that with Northern Iowa, though, this is definitely a team that if they're hitting threes early, you're going to be live betting that first half team total. That's the way I'm looking at it in this game. I think that with Northern Iowa and AJ Green specifically, how fluid and how freaking easily he gets that 3-point shot off, even with his weird freaking shot delivery. It's definitely a nice spot. This is a Northern Iowa team that is literally getting development as the games go on from Bourne, from Heisey, from Carter. And then, of course, when you got the attitude of Burhow, who can guard a guy that's 6 or 7 inches taller than him, which we saw yesterday, it's hard not to look at this Northern Iowa team. We are seeing the line move towards them right now. I see a 3 that popped up on one of my books, but at the end of the day, Ben Jacobson's got to get his guys into their offensive rhythm as early as possible in this game. Otherwise, it could be a little Sister Jean giving them a little pop, 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 and it could be Loyola knocking somebody out.
All right. Anything for Missouri Valley semifinals, Connor?
Yeah, you know what? Everyone and all the money's here on the under in these two games. I think this might have gone too low here when it touched 137, right around there. Because you mentioned it, Max. If Northern Iowa, the shooting, if they get hot, I think this could get over. Obviously, initially, the 141, you think you lean under. This has been under in this tournament. And I think Loyola Chicago is the better team. They advance. Whether they cover, I don't know. I kind of lean Northern Iowa with the points. And the second one, I like Drake, but Missouri State, I think they get it done there. They should have tons of fans, there in that game. I mean, both teams will, but I think Missouri State can get it done. I'd lay the 1.5 there.
I'm going on Drake. I'm taking Drake.
Taking the Drake.
I just think that Tucker DeVries, this is a freshman that's playing like an upperclassman. And if they can contain Isaiah Mosley, without DeMarcus Sharp in the lineup, it becomes a little more difficult to manhandle teams. We saw that against Valpo last night.
Yeah, definitely. It was an early struggle against Valpo for Missouri State, and then they got going a little bit. But definitely going to be interesting to see how it goes here. And interesting matchup, but definitely I think great two really good games, I think, potentially in that Missouri Valley. All right, Summit League quarters, Nebraska, Omaha, South Dakota State, Denver, North Dakota State. I'm taking the 22.5 with Nebraska, Omaha. I mean, in a conference tournament game, I'm willing to take that many points. And look, South Dakota State, I think, beat them by 21 in one game and 11 in the other. I mean, and for them, there's bigger fish to fry. The concern for the Jackrabbits are obviously going to win this basketball game. They're hosting this tournament, but we're just asking them to just get the win, move on. I know Omaha's not good, but that's just too many points in a conference tournament setting, and I'll take those at pretty much every single time when I see it that high. 22.5. I got it. That's a take for me. Plus 22.5 there. That's the only thing I have on the two games. What do you think, Max, about the Summit League quarters?
Yeah, I do think that it is very difficult to lay this type of number, even against South Dakota State. I think that if you do want to lay the number, you might as well just go to the ad spread and hit the minus 25 or 26.5 and get yourself a plus price that's worth it. This game is not going to finish on 22 or 23. It's either going to go way lower or it's going to go way above. That's just my impression on it. When I see a 159 in a South Dakota State game in a tournament, especially versus a defense that really isn't going to be able to close out and nullify that ball movement from side to side, I do think that if South Dakota State's hitting their jump shots, this game can get over in a big rout, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them put up 90-plus points in this game.
All right, there we go. That's the Summit League. All right, let's go to West Coast Conference quarterfinals. BYU, San Francisco, Portland, Santa Clara. San Francisco 3-point favorites, 144 the total in this game. Both of these teams, you talk about teams that are right on the periphery of the tournament. I think you can say that about both. I don't think, is BYU officially in yet? I'm not so sure. San Francisco certainly not officially in yet. So huge game. I think BYU, San Francisco here in the quarters. I kind of lean to the Cougars just a little bit, +3. We'll see. San Francisco laying points in a neutral. I'm not so sure. Portland, Santa Clara. I will be on the Pilots again. I'm going to let them, bet Santa Clara here a little bit. But I like Shante Legans. I like this coach. He's did a great job at Eastern Washington. This team has got playing their best ball of the year right now. They just took that game by the scruff of the neck against San Diego last night and ran away with it in the second half, powered by Moses Wood, who was just amazing in the second half. Big shots made to help the Pilots pull away. And then I liked his confidence in the post-game interview. He said, we're going to show Santa Clara we're the better team. He just flat out came out there and said that. I like that confidence. Yeah, okay, it's a back-to-back. Santa Clara's rested, but sometimes that's a good thing. You know the court, the sight lines, you know what it's going to be like at Orleans Arena there in Las Vegas. So that could be an advantage too. Portland's not like it ended up being a one-sided game. They didn't have to struggle at the end. They could, take it a little easy. I think the points are worth a look there with Portland. What do you think of the West Coast Conference tonight, Max?
Yeah, no, I do think that Portland has the necessary personnel to play with Santa Clara. It's just going to be a matter, can they get off to a good start? When Santa Clara's had to battle back, especially in first halves, they've had a lot of live betting value on the money line. However, with how well this team is coached, how good this hierarchy is, I think that Moses Wood is the most important player for Portland in this game. If he's able to go off tonight, be able to get to the free throw, score inside, and get on the glass, that's going to make and go a long way for the Pilots' effort, because this is a Santa Clara team with obviously a bunch of a couple Canadians and fellow freaking Canadians of ours. But when Vrancic gets going and he's hitting shots and scoring inside and creating off the low block for his teammates, Jalen Williams, PJ Pipes, that's a very dangerous offense. I expect points, even though this number's gone down from 156 to 151.5, and I'll just wait it out. But it's Portland or pass on the spread, at least on the first half.
All right, Portland or pass. Conor, just down the road from $10 dono. Jake, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for the support, as always. Conor Mack, it's right down the street from you, Orleans Arena, Las Vegas, West Coast Conference. What do you think of those two games tonight? BYU, San Fran, Portland, Santa Clara.
Yeah, man. I don't know. BYU played well. They got it done yesterday. I thought it could have been a little bit of flat spot. It's my only loss last night. And I played the over a little bit. It got there, which I couldn't believe, right at the last minute. And I talked about with you, Max, Loyal Marymount. In the end, the offense wasn't there. It's tough. Now BYU's getting 3. I still don't trust BYU, and I don't want the 3 now 3 with San Francisco in that game. And the other one, I think there's points. I know it's come crashing down here to 151, but I think it could even get there the over. I have to take Portland. Santa Clara is a bit better, and they just beat them. What was last week, right? 102-89. Game was close. I'd still take the points with Portland. I think this is the last time. I think they might not win, but I think they can cover. I think this might be too many. Here, Santa Clara, the offense is humming, so I think we'll see points. I think it can get over, and I think Portland can hang around. I think this team, they're feisty. They played great last night, great second half. I think they have one more day in them here, at least, to be around in this one.
All right, let's go to the next up, Atlantic Sun, ASUN semifinals, Battle of Jacksonville. How about that? Jacksonville State in the first semi. Jacksonville State 6-point favorites, 126, and then we got Bellarmine and Liberty with Liberty 7-point favorites, 135.5 the total in that one. I lean to the favorite with Jacksonville State in the first. I lean to the dog with Bellarmine actually against Liberty. Liberty, they got a battle from Lipscomb. They've been terrible against the number. I've got them at 1-8 ATS their last 9 games, Liberty, and they have just barely beaten some teams. Stetson by 6. Kennesaw State needed OT as 9.5-point favorites. Beat Lipscomb by 5 in the first tournament game. Bellarmine's good enough to compete. Bellarmine's better at home, but I could see this being a spot where it's a closer game than the 7 that you're getting in that game. So I like Jacksonville State in the 1. I like Bellarmine in the other. Max, what do you think, ASUN?
Obviously, I'm a Liberty fan, so hearing negative things about Liberty just makes me upset. But I've learned already.
Great coach, Richie McKay. He really is, though.
I've learned already through losing, through losing, through crying, through paying Gus money, that I'm not going to take my Liberty Flame on the spread unless it's a 2.5-point spread or less. So I agree with you. I do think that the Knights have to get good ball movement. They have to get Dylan Penn to score the basketball. And if they don't get to the free throw line and try playing under a game, that is not going to work out well for them. 3-point defense is something you can exploit with my Flames. And that's something that Bellarmine's going to have to prove they can do. Otherwise, they're going to be slurping some cock soup. In the second game, I will say this, it's really going to matter who wins the 3-point battle between these two teams. Jacksonville has the length to really make it a little more difficult to get those 3-point shot off for Jacksonville State's quality guards, especially Darian Adams. But when Jacksonville is able to really control both ends of the glass and then allowing Kevion Nolan, who is an excellent rebounder from the guard spot, him and Mike Marsh are really going to be able to extend possessions, shut possessions down for Jacksonville State. I actually lean towards the Dolphins being able to swim, survive, and not end up on someone's plate.
All right, liking the dog there, the Jacksonville Dolphins in the Battle of Jacksonville. Connor, did you have a lean or a bet in those two semifinals, Atlantic Sun?
Yeah, I think, like both of you guys talked about, I think both numbers are too big in both games. I like both dogs here as well. Liberty, like Max said, I guess, if they're not just 1 or 2 point favorites, they've had troubles lately laying numbers. I think 7 might be too much, but I like Jacksonville a little bit better against Jacksonville State. I think the 6 there, I think they can cover, keep that close. And I'm telling you, I could only look under. I know it's 126, but in that game, I think it's going to be really tight, slow, and low scoring.
All right, but down we go to the Bojangles Coliseum. Big South, which has been a crazy tournament this week so far. Overtime has been the dominant theme. So many close games, so many overtime games. Semifinals, we got Upstate Longwood. Longwood 7-point favorites, 140.5 the total. And the other semi, Gardner Webb, Winthrop 5-point favorites. That's gone up from 2.5, 138 the total. I don't want to be Mr. Square, but I would probably do a Winthrop Longwood money line parlay if I had to in this game. I think both of them will win, but be careful of Upstate. Upstate's been a team I've cashed some tickets with. They're getting 7. Can they hang in this game? There's a lot of people that seem to think their stats are skewed. They've been a little bit fortuitous in some of those games. The bottom line is kind of like what people think about Providence. All they do is they keep winning. That's all I see. I mean, you can talk about the luck factor and they're due for regression and all this BS. teams like that keep winning, and Upstate just finds a way. So, and Longwood, look, there was a big struggle for them against NCAA yesterday against the Aggies. So, Upstate, if they bring it like they did yesterday against Charleston Southern, they're good enough to hang, and they've been pretty good in underdog roles. So that could be scary. Even though Longwood Lancer's been best team in this conference, that may not be an easy opponent for them with Upstate there in that game, which is actually going to start at noon. First game of the day, pretty much. Max, what do you think here? Two interesting matchups, Big South semis.
Yeah, I think that with USC Upstate and Longwood, I think that USC Upstate has to show to me early on, and that means that Jordan Gainey's got to be able to have an outlier type game. Dalvin White's got to be able to hit some threes. If they don't do that, then Longwood is going to manhandle them like they have already this season. And just watch out for Longwood in second halves. You know, Longwood is a second half bet on team. I do think that the scoring tempo may start slow. Don't think it ends slow. So I disagree with the line move. And with Winthrop, you know, opening up at 2.5 and now at 5 or 5.5, it's a little too rich for me. I'd have to come back and try middle the game. However, under between these two teams is probably the better way to play with the under 138 or better.
All right, Connor, what do you think here of the Big South?
Yeah, Max mentioned it. I'd be on the under only in the Gardner Webb Winthrop game, especially at 138. Yeah, I can't believe it's gone all the way up to 5.5 even. That's interesting. And the other one, Longwood wins. I just don't know if they cover that number. I always talk about it, the dreaded 6.5. Such a big line there in college basketball. So I lean Longwood. I just to be leery of laying the 7 there.
All right, there we go. We're going to go, by the way, till noon today, right till the top of the hour. Usually we get off the air before that, but we'll go right till noon today, 20 minutes. I'm into these conference tournaments. I wanted to make sure we broke down all of them. So next up, this is one of my favorite conferences, and these are two beauties today in the Northeast Conference, the semifinals. Mount St. Mary's, Bryant, Long Island, Brooklyn, Wagner. We've got Bryant 7-point favorites, 139.5 the total. In the other semi, Wagner is a 6.5 point favorite against LIU Brooklyn, 147 the total. I ain't stepping in front of Bryant. I'm not doing it. I read all the quotes. Grasso, the coach, Pride, Kiss, Calixte, everybody on that team to a man. We want to make amends for last year. Mount St. Mary's knocked us out in the championship game. The best player on that Mount St. Mary's team last year is not there this year. They've still got a very good team, but this is, I think, redemption moment for Bryant. I don't know if they cover because you got to give Mount St. Mary's their due. They're a very capable team. Defensively, they're solid. Their style could frustrate Bryant a little bit, kind of like it did last year. But I ain't stepping in front of Bryant. This looks like a focused, hungry, and they're a very good offensive team. And if they get it going, I think they could cover that game. I'm not laying the points, but I lean to Bryant. The other game I have bet, and I agree with the way the money's going. This is a veteran Sharks team. LIU Brooklyn that's playing their best basketball of the year. I still think the key injury, I believe Ford it is, to Wagner is going to show up at some point. This could be the game it does. I like the way LIU's playing right now. I think it's a close game with I know Wagner just ran roughshod over their last opponent in this conference tournament a couple days ago, but not going to do it, in my opinion, against this Long Island team peaking at the right time. So I like LIU in that game. Max, what do you think? Great semifinal matchups here in the NEC.
Yeah, listen, Ian, I'm the Northeast Conference governor. I don't care what anyone says. They can try and claim that title, but I will literally shank them with a piece of metal. All right. I have no fucking qualms about that. And when I watch this Wagner team, they have adapted to the loss of Elijah Ford. While Elijah Ford dominates a lot of small guards in conference, this is not an LIU team that it would allow him to do that. They would put Ty Flowers or freaking Arrow Pen on him. He wouldn't have that advantage. So I do think in this game, it does fall on the shoulders of Alex Morales. You know, coming off a triple-double, coming off an absolute destruction of a much weaker conference team, I do think that they're going to have a better effort, but scoring points is Wagner's way to covering this number. Getting over 75 or 76 points, that is the recipe. If you can outscore LIU and you can outrun them, then you can beat them. But if they try and slow this game down and force LIU to play in the half court offense, then I don't think that it's going to turn out well for them. They could outright lose this game.
Yeah,
When it
I like the
comes,
over in that LIU Wagner game as well, 147. Now, normally, Brian, I like overs, but I don't know. Mount St. Mary's has had a way of grinding that game into lower scoring affairs. So I'm a little on the fence with that total with Mount St.
I will.
Mary's.
I'll say
Brian, go
this,
ahead.
Ian. Sorry to interrupt you, but Mount St. Mary without Damian Chongqui compared to Jalen Benjamin is a pretty much more effective offensive team in my opinion. I think that when Jalen Benjamin plays off the ball, it allows bigger ball handlers to get into space and give better kickouts to the 3-point line. Not also forgetting to mention Malik Jefferson is back for this team. And looking at my numbers, Ian, I think that team total of 65.5 with Mount St. Mary has a lot of value to me.
Yeah.
Oh, to be able to score on Bryant, which teams can do. I mean, Bryant will give it up, at times on the defensive end. We've seen games where they've scored 90 plus, but they've given up 80 plus, in games in this conference. So they are capable of being a little bit susceptible and leaky defensively. We'll see if the Mount can maybe take advantage of that. Did you have any thoughts, Connor, on these two NEC tournament semis?
Yeah, like you talked about, Bryant wants this bad, but I don't know if that covers the number here. I just think Mount can hang in there in this one, especially because of Bryant's defense. And I think it gets over. I know this has come down, and maybe Mount St. Mary's, but somehow I just think it can get over the total. They were just a little light. You start getting in the 130s, it could get over there. The other one, I like what Long Island's done lately. But I'd look to Wagner early and often, whether first half. I don't know about full game, but yeah, I like them early.
Yep, they are. They've been impressive. I do think they're going to meet some resistance though from Long Island. We'll see how that
They
goes.
will. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Ohio Valley. I saved this one for last because this is deciding obviously an automatic bid. Ohio Valley Conference Tournament Championship game. Morehead State, Murray State. Murray State 7.5, 8-point home favorites. 130 the total in this game. A lot of subplots here in this matchup. We know Murray State is just on fire right now. Took apart SEMO, although SEMO got the backdoor cover in that game. They were up big. They kind of, kind of let it go early. Late in that game. And of course, SEMO goes through the back door, 88-74 final in that game. But you look at Murray and Morehead State, they played each other twice. Murray won on their home floor, 77-66. And then at Morehead State, Murray won 57-53. But that was a competitive back and forth game from start to finish. And Morehead probably deserved a little bit better fate. Morehead State's obviously, that was not pretty basketball last night by any stretch of the imagination with Morehead State and Belmont, 53-51. It just became no offense in the last 7 or 8 minutes of that game. But Morehead found a way. I don't know if I want to lay 8 with Murray. Murray, I know, is just on fire. And when you look at the situation, guys, Murray could still be in the NCAA tournament if they lose this game, believe it or not. There's a very big potential they get an at-large, Murray State. Even if they lose tonight, Morehead's got to win. There's no tournament for Morehead unless they win tonight, this Ohio Valley Tournament Championship game. So a lot at stake for Morehead. Not that Murray's not amped up. It's still a conference championship game, but I'd lean dog here, Morehead State. Max, what do you think here, OVC?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking towards Morehead State being able to play 40 minutes instead of 36.5 minutes. Watching that game, seeing how that game ended was just a complete freaking I don't even know. I can't even speak the words on this channel that I want to use. I think that with Morehead, getting it to John A. Broome, controlling the tempo, not allowing KJ Williams to get their front court depth into foul trouble, and most importantly, Skylar Potter, you have to be the most important player on the court for your team tonight. If you aren't hitting some threes, stretching out that defense, and using that big body to score inside and get to the free throw line, then yeah, Morehead is going to have a very lackluster game, sort of like what we saw on times during the Belmont game. I think that they bring it at the right time in the second half and find a way to keep this game close enough that we can cash a ticket with them on the full game spread.
Yep, I agree. I like Moorhead too, plus the points. That's the sign. I'm not looking to lay it with Murray here right now at this point in time. What do you think your OVC championship, Connor?
Yeah, Murray State just kind of not the same team a little bit lately. I mean, they're getting by with wins, but they unlike January and early February dominating the number. So you're right. I think Murray State wins here. I just don't know about laying the number. I'd lean the dog with you guys as well.
All right. We will get to the rest. There's added board regular season games, extra game added board. There's the MEAC and the SWAC still ongoing. So we'll get to those with Max in a second. But first, we'll wrap up the main board. I'll just throw a bunch of the other games that are bigger at you guys. North Carolina, Duke. We're not talking about Coach K. We're talking about the point spread and the total. I don't want to talk about that, the Coach K shit. Duke 11.5 point home favorites, 151.5 the total. Look, obviously Duke's probably going to win this game. I think the referees might go on above and beyond the call of duty to give Duke a great whistle today. I think that's very real. They're going to do everything in their power to give them a beneficial call today in the final game for Coach K. I could see that from a mile away. I could also see it being a foul fest, kind of like the first game with North Carolina and Duke at Chapel Hill. I like the over. I don't understand why the total's going down in this game. I think you'll see points in this game, a lot of fouls. To me, it's a tax to lay this many with Duke. The odds makers have padded this toward Duke because of the situation. It's the final game ever at Cameron for Coach K. So I don't think it's value with Duke, but I don't want to step in front of Duke either. So I'm just going to look at the over in that game. And then quickly, Boise, Colorado State. I kind of lean Colorado State there. St. John's, Marquette. I like St. John's, plus 4.5. I think that they're a live road dog there. They had a nice win against Xavier, bounced back. They're playing good ball. I know defensively it's still a little shaky. And I kind of lean over, but man, 161, 62. That's a high total in that St. John's Marquette game. And USC, UCLA. USC 7.5 point underdogs. Kind of lean USC. A little. I think it's a revenge situation for USC as well in this game. I lean to them getting points in a revenge spot here against the Bruins. So, what do you think, Connor, of those games in particular, or anything else we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, let's roll through some of these. I think Georgetown Xavier I know it's come down. I think it's come down too far. I think it goes over. If you can get 145 even now, the number there. Some of the other ones I was on. The SC. I like SC, especially coming off that ass whooping. I just think they play such close games, UCLA and SC, that this might be too many points. And I think I lean under. It's already moved a little bit at 135 in that game. Colorado, Utah. This line's come down. I don't get it. Utah doesn't play any defense. They can't stop anyone. I'd only look over 137.5 there. Same with Sacramento State, Montana. I think that gets over 133, 132 even. This isn't the same Sacramento State team. They're playing better. They can score. They've covered numbers. I lean them here, catching the 9 even, but I think it gets up and over the total there. That Boise game's interesting. I want to take Boise. They've been such road warriors, as Max has alluded to, and cashed a ton. So that one's really tough. I kind of lean the points with them, but I have to dig into that one further. But those are some of the games that I'm looking at for tonight's action. And San Diego State, Nevada, under 133.
Yeah, San Diego State, Nevada. I actually do lean San Diego. I'm not stepping in front of San Diego State. I like the way they're playing. Dutcher's got them playing their best ball, I think, at the moment. And I don't trust Nevada. Just too inconsistent, too up and down for me. And UNLV, New Mexico. I mean, could it be a flat spot for UNLV? Big home win against Wyoming? Maybe, but I ain't stepping in front of UNLV right now. If you're a Kruger, you can coach. And Kevin's done a great job with UNLV, son of Lon. In fact, this is the first time they've been this good since Lon Kruger, probably. His father coached UNLV 15 years ago. So
he looks just like him.
He
sounds just like him. It's freaking weird.
It's like that with a lot of fathers and sons. You see that freaking Jack Collinsworth, Chris Collinsworth's son on NBC,
yeah.
Jack Collinsworth. Sounds just like him and looks just like him. Yeah. It's unbelievable, the resemblance. It's like, Jesus Christ. It's like you got a clone son of father here. Some of these father-son dynamics. But anyway, Max, added board. We still have SWAC. We still have MEAC. And I know you probably got some bets on them. So what do you got?
Yeah, listen, I think that this is the type of day I love the SWAC that much more. And I like the Southland because we got some Southland games.
Southland too,
Obviously,
yeah.
with the Southland, I'm looking at over the New Orleans game. I'm looking at their team total over, and I'm looking at them +8. With their dribble drive ability, they should be able to score against this Nicholls State front court. And as long as they can avoid giving up an outlier 30-point game to Ty Gordon, I do think that this is a situation where Nicholls probably wins the game, but probably doesn't cover by 8 points. So I like the dog there.
Yeah.
Ian, I like Alabama A&M once again. Give me a game when they're at home. Give me a game where you can watch them on YouTube, which probably one of the worst feeds in college basketball. But 4 or 4.5 points is just too much. Garrett Hicks, Cam Tucker, they are going to get it done for me today. And I think that they can beat Southern because Southern doesn't have much to play for. Texas A&M Corpus Christi versus Incarnate Word. I'm an under guy with Incarnate Word at home. Even with the possibility of RJ Clasper putting up a 30-point game, I am still liking the under. So rolling with some plays at the lower levels, which are the kosher levels.
There we go. I think that's it. Yeah, that's what Max has got for the added board. That's SWAC, MEAC, and Southland there on the Saturday slate. Great stuff. There you go. That's how you do a show. That's getting it done in a little under 2 hours because we always try to get out of here before the games start at noon Eastern on this show. We got through all the main board key games pretty much. Got all of those talked about on the show at some point. We talked about every conference tournament game in the mid-majors, which that's where my focus is. I want to see these conference tournament games in the mid-majors. To hell with Tennessee, Arkansas, and freaking Virginia, Louisville, and Coach K, the slop fest, and the kissing the feet of Coach K for 12 hours straight on ESPN. I don't care about that. Give me Citadel, Chattanooga at the top of the hour. Give me Upstate Longwood. Give me Bryant and Mount St. Mary's and Long Island and Wagner. Give me all those great
Now you're talking.
Missouri Valley games. Give me those games. That's where the focus is today. God damn it! And I know Max agrees with that.
That's the way I think, Ian. Now I like to hear you talk about it. Yeah, spit that shit, bud. Teach these guys. Listen, just because the game is the most entertaining does not mean it's the best game to wager on. Bigger handle, more line movement, more fuckery. Less line movement, less fucking handle equals we fuck the books in the mouth.
That's right. Exactly. Less attention means more opportunity. 100% right about that. No question. 256 live viewers. Hit that like button if you haven't done so. Before we wrap it up, stay tuned. We'll have best bets to wrap things up coming up. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101. Manscaped. Promo code Pub Sports. 20% off your purchase. Lawnmower 4.0 or any Manscaped product. 20% off with promo code Pub Sports. MyBookie.ag. NBA, college basketball. March Madness is here. NHL, college basketball, NBA, UFC. It's all going on. Make sure you sign up for an account. MyBookie.ag. Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit. MyBookie.ag. Promo code Pub Sports. And we've got UFC live streams. Do we have horse stuff today? I thought I heard we have live horse streaming today as well. So it is a big day on the channel. Pub Sports Radio. Horse racing with Razor Sharp and crew. I think Jimmy might be joining them as well for that, as well as the UFC tonight. Big event for UFC. Live streaming all day, all night here on Pub Sports Radio. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And stay tuned right now because we got best bets for this Saturday college basketball slate. Connor, Mac, what do you got for best bet?
I'm taking this, and this has gone against me from last night. The line a little bit. I don't give a shit. They win here at home later today. Long Beach, baby. Long Beach State -2.5. They beat Riverside. They cover the number there.
All right, there you go. Best bet for
What?
Connor.
Is that your bet?
Fuck. That was the one I was.
My bad. You want me to throw a different one? Hold on.
No, it's fine. I got tons of fucking other plays I bet.
That's all right.
Oh, Connor, we do a show too often together. We're fucking betting and thinking alike.
Yep.
I know.
I don't think your lady's gonna like that.
That's what happens when you work with the same guy for a full season. I know that. I know the feeling with Connor and I in that regard, with baseball shows and college football shows and seasons past in other sports. But there you go. Best bet for Connor. Max, what do you got for best bet?
Well, I was going with Long Beach, but I will add Long Beach. So I'm going with Connor.
It's good. It's like Portland last night.
Yeah,
real quick. We're gonna win.
We're gonna feed the ladies of the night with this one. Okay. My second one that I was going to be a dick about, but I'm going to give out now. Mount St. Mary, team total over 65.5. Even in a game where they're trying to clamp down on defense, do you think that Bryant is going to give them the non-running opportunities? Every time that they can run, they're going to run. I think that that's going to lead to points. I'm good with 65.5. Mount St. Mary. Bring home the money. Coach Dan Engelstad, you're my guy, bro. You're my guy.
There we go. Mount St. Mary's team total for Maxwell Smart with his best bet in this one. We'll see how it goes. And then, when I look at this board here with best bet, I really like this, even though it's an ugly team, Nebraska Omaha plus 22.5. It's just too many. South Dakota State's terrific. But Omaha's covered both meetings this year. 21 and an 11-point loss, if I'm not mistaken, in the two meetings. And for South Dakota State, you got to play tomorrow, the next day. You have a big lead by 15, 16, 18 late in the game. You're putting it on cruise control. It's just too many points for a conference tournament game. Nebraska Omaha plus 22.5 against South Dakota State. Summit League for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of Net Profit College Basketball. We appreciate all of you guys joining us in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. Have yourself a great Saturday. Make sure you stay tuned for the horse racing and UFC live streaming right here on Pub Sports Radio all day and night long. For Connor Mack and Maxwell Smart, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Cash some tickets. Enjoy all the college basketball action. And we'll see you again next Saturday. And it'll be a major power conference tournament games next Saturday. So make sure you join us for that right here on Pub Sports Radio.